Having come to the final of this Oceania International Championships, really excited to see who's going to...
It's never too late to start being a champion, and Sobi is looking to start that journey here today, Championship Sunday.
Players ready to set up now. Look like they're both in very good spirits.
Yeah, which is what you want to have. This is a very intense match you're going to see here. A lot on the line. And going forward into the future of this season as well.
And here we go, we're seeing the prize cards from both players coming down onto your screen now.
Yeah, so we see Sobi, he is playing that Mewtwo and Mew GX with Malamar, the same exact deck that we saw Pedro pilot to a second place finish just a few minutes ago, and really looking to take advantage of the Nightwatch and Marnie combo, try to strip Christian's hand down, but Christian has a ton of draw power on his side of the field.
And that was the handshake. We're underway. The Senior Division International Championships final. Let's hear some, crowd, let's make some noise for these players, especially if there's a player here who you want to see win. And we're kicking it off with a Jirachi in the active position for Sobi, probably the Pokemon he wants to see there, and a quick ball throwing away that Latios GX. Now, we talked about Latios GX in that previous matchup, how powerful that Clear Vision GX attack is. Is it a similar one for this matchup?
Not as good here. There is no straightforward GX attack that Christian will want to use. So that kind of puts a highlight on the other GX Pokemon in your deck, like Gengar and Mimikyu GX, like even the Naganadel GXs with the Stinger GX attack.
Yeah, so we might see some different GX attacks coming out now, but of course one Pokemon that isn't too different, and we've seen it all weekend, is that Detonate GX.
Yeah, it's not too bad. One of the best support Pokemon we have access to in the standard format, being able to discard your hand and draw 6 cards. Again, just its value has gone up so much in the wake of that turn 1 no supporter rule.
It looks like that's what Sobi's going to go for in the first turn here, discarding a Reset Stamp, Professor's Research. I believe that's an Naganadel GX to find himself 6 more cards to his hand. Looking to probably put down a few more Inkay so he can start powering up that Mewtwo and Mew GX. Next turn with Malamar's Psychic Recharge does find a Viridian Forest to be able to put energy in the discard pile and an energy to attach to a Pokemon of his choosing. Not a bad start from Sobi, I would say.
Not a bad start, even having that Mewtwo and Mew GX drawn off the Dedenne change to be able to get that turn 1 attachment. Like you said, you just need to build up a critical mass of energies, and that way you can be able to use any attack essentially in your deck.
It does play that Mewtwo and Mew GX down, does attach the energy. Do a Stellar Wish to look at the top 5 cards of his deck and choose a trainer card there. Instantly takes the Quick Ball.
Yeah, Quick Ball is going to be the card of choice that he really needed to find. Wants to get down another Inkay, having as many Malamars in play as possible so you can recharge an attacker if it goes down later on in the game is essential.
So it does get 2 down into play very early on. Now, we saw on the side of Lucas last game with that Arceus Dialga Palkia deck that he wasn't really applying too much pressure on the first turn of the game. He was spending the first couple of turns attaching energy and powering up that Altered Creation GX. Now, is that something that Christian's going to be looking to do as well, or will he come out with a little bit more, I'm going to say, firepower?
Oh, well, you said it best. Firepower it is, and Welder is probably one of the fastest supporter cards you can play in this format. Being able to attach 2 fire energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon and draw 3 cards as well. That means we can see big knockouts happen as soon as turn 1 here from Christian.
So a pretty crucial card there, hits the discard pile in that Ninetales, 9 Temptation ability. Has been very, very powerful in other matchups that we've seen. That's for sure, being able to target a Pokemon on the opponent's bench. It looks like in this one, Christian's looking to discard it though.
Yeah,
discards 2, in fact, recognizing that perhaps that's definitely not a card he wants to be playing in this matchup.
Well, it is a very good card in pretty much every matchup, but unfortunately having both in the active or the starting hand here, it could signal something like Christian is going to go for maybe a Dedenne GX.
Yeah, certainly not being able to play those Stage 1 Pokemon on the first turn of the game in most cases.
Yeah, definitely an awkward start here from Christian. Never what you want to see, but There is a Heat Factory in his hand, so be able to draw a little bit more cards with the multitude of fire energy in his hand.
Yeah, and I think that might have just saved him because his hand previous to that was just fire energy. Stellar Wish, another look at some more trainer cards. Does find another Welder, does find a Cherish Ball as well.
Even has access to something like that escape board to be able to retreat into the Volcanion and Flare Starter for his first turn of the game, going second, meaning he could search for 3 fire energy and attach them to any of his Pokemon in any way he likes.
You have a hard decision to make when you have a Cherish Ball, but also an escape board. He is going to do the Pokemon communication, getting rid of that Victini Prism Star, finding a different Pokemon to put into play.
Yeah, and we see fanning through, there's actually that Zebstrika in Christian's deck, the same as we saw earlier with Reagan. And this is probably the matchup that you're going to want to use it for. It's the best attack that you have, or the best ability that you have against the attack Night Watch.
Oh yeah, just discard your hand and sprint into 4 new cards. Looks like it's going to go for Turtonator there, placing that down onto the bench. One of the real strengths of this, we're going to call it Reshiram Charizard, sort of fire toolbox deck, is that it has so many different types of attackers. You know, GX Pokemon, Tag Team GX Pokemon, Pokemon V, a Prism Star Pokemon, and then, you know, your run-of-the-mill basic Pokemon as well.
Yeah, well, there's nothing run-of-the-mill about Turtonator here. With its explosive jet attack, it's able to take big knockouts out of nowhere thanks to Welder. And here we go, the first Welder of the game, first of many, I would hope.
Yeah, that's exactly what Christian wants to see. He wants to get as many fire energy into play as early as he can, and he will be able to get more into play as well if he does choose to attack with that Volcanion. First, he's going to Dead-Eye Change, get some more resources into the discard pile that, you know, perhaps they're not resources when you don't want to see them in play, like that Vulpix.
The awkward thing is that there's been a lot of Pokemon being discarded by Christian this turn 1. And the thing about the way that he has built this deck specifically is that there's no way to actually get those cards back.
When they're discarded, they're gone from play.
Yeah, so he no longer has access to Victini V for the rest of the game, no longer has access to his Ninetales for the rest of the game. So that kind of gives Sobi an advantage in that he doesn't have to play around as many of these toolbox cards as he would have thought.
Looks like play passes back to Sobi now. Don't think we saw an attachment coming out of Christian on his turn, just that Welder.
Oh yeah, the Dene change, not able to find a fire energy, so no attachment from the flares to the used flare starter, and having to pass the turn. That's not what you want to see here if you're Christian.
Sobi now plays Marnie, draws into a new set of cards. He's going to Psychic Recharge onto that Mewtwo and Mew GX. I do believe that's a golden switch in his hand there, so he will be able to get that Jirachi out of the active position. Although when there's many gold cards, often difficult to see which exact card it is. We're going to have to see what he's able to piece together here. Looks like he's quick-balled into that Gengar and Mimikyu GX tag team card, the one we were talking about earlier that has such a powerful, has 2 very, very powerful attacks in its GX move, Horror House, and also its attack, Poltergeist. Well, now, if that's not a switch, he does have an option to take one off this Stellar Wish.
Yeah, finding the exact cards he really needs. Although only the 1 Malamar, but that might be all he really wants right now.
Yeah, Gengar and Mimikyu, only really needing 2 energy attached to it to do either of its attacks to full effect. Does have to decide if he has a way to get that Pokemon into the discard pile, if that's the route that he's opting to choose, or he's going to have to play it down on the bench.
Yeah, not what you want to see there. It is one of the tag team Pokemons that has the lowest HP, but Mewtwo,
there we go, it's a Horror House GX.
And now we draw until 7 cards, so Sobi also getting a little bit more play next turn thanks to this GX move.
But I see on the side of Christian, he didn't draw too many trainer cards.
Yeah, this might be a pretty bad Poltergeist if that is the option for Sobi, but he might want to look for something like a Marnie Nightwatch combo next turn.
Now, Horror House does not allow Christian to play cards, but he can utilize that Heat Factory, discarding a Fire Energy. The question was, did he want to do that? Because it could potentially put more trainer cards in his hand, but he did go for it, and he actually didn't find too many training cards, just that giant hearth there.
Hey, well, when you play 18 fire energies, most of the time you're just like, I'm going to draw on some fire energies.
Expected. All right. Play back to Sobi now as Christian was prevented from being able to play any cards from his hand on that turn thanks to that Horror House GX copied by the Mewtwo and Mew. Looks like Sobi's going to put that Giratina into the discard pile along with the Naganadel GX. And you've got to think, that's exactly where that Giratina wants to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, no bench space here for Sobi to actually bring that back. That probably is one of the best attackers right now, at least with how the board state has happened. Christian's field is just his 2-1 prize attackers that is very easily knocked out by Shadow Impact.
And that's a 4th energy committed to that Mewtwo and Mew GX. Sobi recognizing that maybe Christian doesn't have too much going on for him right now.
Yeah, he pulled that Naganadel GX to the top of his discard. Venom Shot will most likely be the attack of choice here, taking down something like the Turtonator, or if you just iron down the 2 prizes, something like the Dene GX.
Professor's research into 7 new cards now. Few different options available to him. Looks like we're going to see a reset stamp.
Yeah, well, when your opponent had something like, what, 10 cards in their hand?
Yeah. You know, you're probably going to see a welder and some fire energy in there and maybe another attacking option. So reset stamp down to 6. Potentially a great way to disrupt Christian in this case.
All right, and yeah, quite a few options now too. So really depends what Sobi prioritizes here.
Oh, there's an attachment onto the Gengar and Mimikyu GX on the bench there. Not something I expected to see.
Yeah, again, Poltergeist is still a good attack, and Christian's deck really just builds up their big hand size, and most of the time has a lot of trainers in their hand.
Looks like he's going for it. He's going to copy the Naganadel GX from the discard pile, knocking out really what was the only threat on the side of Christian's field. Having committed 2 energy to it from a welder, that Turtonator goes down straight to the discard pile, and Sobi takes the first prize in this matchup. Christian here needs to respond, and he probably needs to respond really quickly, as that Mewtwo and Mew GX is quite threatening, and one of the best ways to respond is in that Heatran GX.
Yeah, but unfortunately, no energy in play to really bring forth the active spot. Hotburn GX is a great way to take a big knockout on a tag team GX, but only having what essentially could be 3 energy in play if a welder is played, that's definitely not enough to take the knockout.
And then we see the energy attachment to Volcanion. Perhaps it is Christian is going to go for a little bit of a slower route.
Yeah, and this is what Christian wanted to see, the turn prior to the Horror House GX. And that's where Flare Starter is at its best. If you go second, you're able to get 3 fire energy, but here, he's only going to be able to get the 1.
Yeah, I mean, he runs 18, so it was a big miss on that fire energy that turn. But here, a few options available to him. Does find another welder. That's exactly what he wants to see to start accumulating energy on his side of the board. But the question comes down to whether Sobi can continuously apply that pressure and keep removing the fire energy from the side of Christian, or if Christian can have some time to set up some kind of offensive option.
And there we see the Flare Starter gets the energy, attaches it to the Dedenne. You kind of want to spread out the energy because Heatran GX is able to just get all those back onto him when he gets to the active spot.
Play back to Sobi now. Can he continue this pressure? Can he continue to keep removing the energy from the side of Christian? If he can, you'd think that he's going to run away with this game. But does he have enough pieces to really utilize that Psychic Recharge?
Well, has the Great Catcher in his hand here. That'll be able to bring forth either the Dedenne GX or the Heatran GX. And this could be a huge Poltergeist turn from Sobi here.
There we go. Targets the Heatran GX into the active position.
Even has the Aurora energy to attach to the active. Now has access to any 3 energy attack he wants. Gets that Psychic Recharge on the bench. And this is a huge swing yet again from Sobi here, taking full advantage of his really fast start this game 1.
As a look at his discard pile at what options are available to him. So There's a Dusknoir and Trevenant. Latios GX and a couple of Naganadels as well. So really got to think carefully, which attack is he going to copy?
Yeah, or do you go the risky route and try to hit it with Poltergeist, only needing 4 trainers in Christian's hand to actually take the knockout here. But it seems like Night Watch is the attack of choice, trying to disrupt Christian a little bit and putting the damage on the Heatran GX.
Sets it up for a potential knockout in following turns. I'm sure he would have liked to have definitely seen a knockout on that Heatran though, as it is quite a threatening Pokemon, but being in the active position already, can't really utilize its ability too well. As all the energy are moved in when you move it into the active position.
Yeah, Christian would need something like a switch and then a skateboard on the Jirachi to retreat, or even retreating with the Dedenne GX, but you lose an energy that way. So having that great catcher really nullifies the one plan that Christian had to try to take down this Mewtwo and Mew.
And will he be able to find a welder on the 3rd turn in a row is another question that we have to ask ourselves here. Decks, of course, only do run 4. And sometimes, like we've seen in previous matchups, they can be quite evasive.
Does get the 2 energy off that Giant Hearth Stadium card. A really great utility stadium in this deck. Combos really well with that welder supporter. And we see
has a welder. You know what? I said you can only play 4, but when you play Palpad and you put 2 more back into your deck, that's an effective 6.
Yeah. This card's so good. I'm going to try to play it as many times as possible. The dream game is when you just play welder every single turn of the game.
Can't say I've ever had that happen, unfortunately. Looks like he is going to commit those 2 energy to the Heatran GX there. All in on this Pokemon.
We see a skateboard hit the Jirachi. No switch effect yet.
And Christian just has a quick read. Which attack am I going to go for on this turn?
Oh, this is rough, though. That great catcher put in a ton of work for Sobi here. Really just nullifying the big threat on Christian's side of the field.
Comes down a quick ball. He's able to search his deck, see which other Pokemon he does have available to him. Targets that Reshiram and Charizard GX. I think the only other option or only other target that I saw in there was that Victini Prism Star.
Yeah, but Christian mostly doing this just to thin his hand out of trainer cards. If he is able to mount a comeback this game, he does not want to get surprised by something like a Poltergeist.
There we see GX move come down from Heatran GX. Unfortunately for Christian, not enough to take a knockout on this Mewtwo and Mew GX as he would have liked.
Yeah, Hotburn GX only does 50 damage times the number of energy attached to Heatran GX. So 200 damage, still a lot of damage, but not enough to take down the gigantic Mewtwo and Mew.
Yeah, certainly not a number to scoff at, but certainly not what he wanted on that turn. Now play passes to Sobi, and he has the option to really pull ahead in this match and clear Christian's board of most of his energy.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. You need your welders to be impactful on the board, but when you're not taking a knockout and then you just get knocked out right back, all your energy are gone.
Sobi doing the right thing, really thinking about what he's going to copy. And looks like he chooses Night Watch again. It seems like a sensible option to remove cards from Christian's hand that may be required.
All right, Sobi is now 3 prizes away from taking game 1 here and moving that much closer to being our senior division international champion here in Oceania. Christian playing off the top of his deck now, finds that Jirachi, but that's not what you need. Does have access to the Stellar Wish, though.
Yeah, finds a couple of fire energy. It's going to be a big Stellar Wish from him. We've said it multiple times this weekend. Stellar Wish needs to come up big. Find 1 trainer card that can bail him out of this situation. We just got to think that Sobi's going to run away with game 1 of this final.
Yeah, really needing to find a welder here just to draw into more cards. The one awkward thing, though, is there's no real great attachment for the welder.
I see reset stamp. I see a skateboard.
And there is the game. Sobi takes game 1 here off the back of Mewtwo and Mew GX and its powerful perfection ability.
Yeah, and big cheer from the crowd there. A lot of players here who are really rooting for Sobi to take home this championship. And I'd like to think there's some players out there who are also just rooting for Malamar. Who doesn't love Malamar, right?
Yeah, for sure, Oceania's last chance to take one of these divisions in the trading card game. And Sobi has a great chance to do that for his fans here.
I think it was quite a rough start, though, there for Christian in that first game, having to discard a few key resources early in the game, particularly some of his attacking Pokemon in that Victini V, which is also a great way to get energy cards back, too, so you don't have to just rely on Welder. And it's a great way to get that, as you said, critical mass of energy on your board.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to have to see a better hand from Christian here. Maybe even trying to get down different attackers. We saw Heatran GX and Volcanion basically end the game, but those guys do not deal enough damage to take down opposing tag team Pokemon outside of Hopper and GX.
Yeah, definitely a couple of missed turns there. The Flare starter with Volcanion, missing the fire energy to be able to attack with that Volcanion, and not having enough energy then as a consequence on the Heatran GX to be able to achieve that knockout. On the side of Sobi, is there anything differently that maybe he could do to approach this game, or was that a masterclass in how to play Mewtwo and Mew GX with Malamar?
Oh, it was very good. Being able to just pick apart Christian's hand toward the end really took away any out that Christian had to try and make a comeback.
Yeah, certainly put himself on the front foot for most of that game. Now, one interesting interaction here is that a lot of the players I've been speaking to who are playing this Reshiram and Charizard GX deck with Fire sometimes choose to go second in the game rather than first. Is that something we'll see here?
Yeah, so it's awkward, especially in this specific matchup. Gengar and Mimikyu GX is able to, with just one energy, be able to make your opponent not play cards for the next turn. So if Christian has a hand where it's just like Pokemon Pass, doesn't have access to Dedenne GX, we could see a very quick game 2 here.
And there we go. It looks like Sobi's going to be taking us off, starting us off, rather, in this second match of the final at the Oceania International Championships, and he is starting with an Inkay and an Absol. We didn't see Absol last game.
Yeah, Absol is very good when your opponent's playing 4 copies of Jirachi. Again, we saw it do a ton of work in the Junior Division final. But
ooh, that looks like that's a pass from Sobi. All he does is retreat the Inkay and pass. Doesn't look like he really has a lot going on in his hand. There's actually no trainer for next turn, so this could open the door for Christian to have a really powerful turn if he's able to piece together maybe a Welder and an attacking Pokemon and start applying pressure.
All right, but here we go. Quick Ball discarding a Dedenne GX, kind of signaling that he already has another one in hand. But this is where you want to start for Christian, and he's going to be able to capitalize on a really awkward start from Sobi, like you said.
Yeah, and that's another one of the reasons that players are often deciding to start the game second, is because you get full utility out of that Volcanion card.
Yeah, and this is probably the best deck to try to go second in some of these games.
Looks like he does have a Welder in hand. That's exactly the supporter he wants to see on the first turn of the game, and access to fire energy as well. So, you know what? We could actually see that Charizard attacking as early as turn 1.
Well, so his hand was a little awkward. He really wanted to keep everything in it. There was a fire energy, a switch, and then the Welder. So he would be able to switch into the Volcanion and Flare Starter, get 3 energy since it's the second turn of the game, and already having the Welder to put 2 energy on the active. That means we could see the end of this turn have 6 energy in play.
Yeah, it seems like the exact opposite of what we saw last game. So there's the Welder that puts 2 energy onto that benched Volcanion, draws 3 more cards. One of those is a Dedenne GX, I believe. So we'll be able to play that to continue his turn if he so chooses.
Oh no, but this is the awkward part.
Ooh.
Drawing that third Dedenne GX means this is the only one Christian will have access to for the entire game.
And I think we also just saw that Mega Lopunny as well as the Victini V hit the discard pile. They will not feature in this second game.
But here we see the Flare Starter being able to get 3 fire energy from Christian's deck. A really powerful attack that in the past has kind of been, if you go second, it's really good, but you still want to go first.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I want to go second most of the time. This attack's insane right now.
And Sobi, that top deck really didn't help him. He just finds another Pokemon, and it looks like it may have to be an attach and pass, and it is, and the play goes back to Christian now.
This is not what you want to see if you're a fan of Sobi here. No supporter in sight. The first turn rule didn't even affect him. And there's a high Heat Blast to take the knockout on the active Absol, and things are starting to get rolling now. 1 energy away on that Reshiram Charizard to be able to deal with this Mewtwo and Mew.
And it's a Dedenne GX, though. It's going to bail him out. He will be able to play that and draw himself a new hand of 6 cards, hopefully finding some pieces to be able to put some pressure, but it's going to have to be a lot of pieces.
The one of copy. Also finding something like a great catcher here. If he has access to that Gengar and Mimikyu GX, we could see something like a Desperation Poltergeist, but I don't even think there's enough cards in Christian's hand to even do that.
We do see a Malamar. Unfortunately, that Mewtwo and Mew GX being in the active position, you can't take full advantage of that Psychic Recharge. It does only attach a Psychic Energy to a benched Pokemon. So it's probably that Mewtwo is going to have to live with 2 energy for this turn.
Yeah, it's looking like there's no way to get a Pokemon in the discard or in play that has a 2 energy attack. So we'll just see more setup from Sobi.
He does have that decision he needs to make, whether he wants to play that great catcher at all. Also really deliberating about whether Viridian Forest is the right play, the right target, being that Psychic Energy. Does go for it, going to search his deck.
Well, it is able to get a Psychic Energy in the discard to fuel future Malamars, but Sobi's going to need to try to find some better action here. Most likely just passing the turn back to Christian.
He's looking through his deck and he's saying, oh, I do run supporters. They are in there. I am able to play them at some point in the game. He's just going to put that Psychic Energy into his hand, 1 in the discard pile. Fortunately, that Malamar's not going to help out. There is no Inkay in play. And probably his final decision for this turn will be, do I want to play Great Catcher? And what do I want to attack with?
Yeah, only having an Ordinary Rod in his hand to go along with that Great Catcher and Malamar. Not what you want to see here from Sobi.
Ooh,
so we see the pass of the turn.
Pass from Sobi. No attack coming out whatsoever. You just got to feel like Christian potentially going to run away with this game. That's a 5th or 6th energy onto that Reshiram and Charizard GX.
That's 6 energy now. Reshiram and Charizard GX is fully ready to attack here.
So being a tag team, there is a secondary effect on its GX move, ordinarily dealing 200 damage, but when you have 6 energy attached to this Reshiram and Charizard GX, well, it's nigh on unstoppable. 300 damage, that's enough to knock out a Mewtwo and Mew GX.
And here we see just a manual retreat, and there's the concession. The writing was on the wall. This Reshiram and Charizard GX was too much to handle, and just like that, Christian Moreno evens up the match count 1-1.
Ooh, this is a little bit too close for my liking. I think both these decks are so powerful, and it's really coming down to who can actually find the pieces at the right time. Pretty much that game, I think, was decided on the first hand that Sobi drew, where he just didn't find any trainers or supporters to follow up on the second turns. Only had that 1 Inkay to start him off. Yeah, not what he wanted to see, but hopefully for him, he'll be able to see a little bit of a better setup this going into Game 3, the deciding game of this International Championships.
Yeah, well, you saw Christian opt to go second in that game too, and that sealed up the win for him, being able to welder just turn 1, turn 2, yeah, I don't care. But Sobi, now he has that same decision. Do you make Christian go first, shut off his turn 1 welder, shut off that flare starter from Volcanion, but then you don't get to evolve your turn 1? Yeah,
it's such a risky decision to make, but you have to think, you do have to think, is this the right time to be making big, risky decisions? Look, if it was me, I love myself a Horror House GX, just try to disrupt the opponent as quickly as possible. But, you know, his tried and true strategy has to be put down multiple Inkays, slow and steady, make them, turn them into Malamar, and then use Mewtwo and Mew GX to just sweep the board. So, I don't know if this is the right time to deviate from his usual strategy, but having seen Christian's incredible start going second, he's definitely thinking about it. So both players shuffling, setting up now, both probably aware of how much is on the line with this third game here. This is to decide the Oceania International Champion for the Seniors division. It's all on this one game. Months of preparation have led up to this moment. And it's all going to be decided on which player can take 6 prizes first.
All right, looking at their prize cards here, we see that Mimikyu in the prizes, as well as the
Dedenne GX, but 2 on the side of Christian as well, so it's no guarantee he'll be able to find that Pokemon when he needs it.
Wow, this is going to be pretty interesting. And yeah, Sobi opting for Christian to go first in this Game 3. Who would have thought that we would be going second in the Pokemon TCG and it'd be good?
Especially with a Malamar deck. But here we are. Sobi, he does have that Inkay on the bench. It's nice to see that he can still potentially get a Malamar up next turn, no matter what happens here. He's going to Mysterious Treasure away that Ultra Necrozma GX. Find himself a few extra pieces, so he does have cards to play, unlike that second game where he did not draw a trainer card in his opening hand.
Yeah, and then also starting that Latios GX means free retreat. So you're able to go into pretty much anything you want, and I think Sobi sees the writing on the wall here, gets that Gengar and Mimikyu GX super fast, gets it in the discard, gets that Mewtwo and Mew GX as well.
And we've all seen the power of this in local league, in testing. There's always that one person that comes to the table and says, I am going to Horror House GX on the first attack of my game. It looks like we might see that here. And if Christian doesn't have anything he can do after that, well, you know, if he can't play cards, what can you do really?
Yeah, thankfully, getting that one Fire Energy on the Volcanion means he'll be at least able to Flare Starter, kind of save an energy on the bench Victini V. But this is not looking good for Christian here. Sobi getting a really strong turn 1, along with that Professor's Research to draw into a new hand.
I think it was really important, funnily enough, for Christian to actually get that second Pokemon down, because if he just led with that Volcanion and not found a second Pokemon, a Horror House GX into a Poltergeist could have sealed the game for Sobi. So very big that he benched that Victini V.
Yeah, heads up play from Christian there. That's not a way you want to lose the title of international champion.
No. So Sobi here taking all the necessary steps that he would ordinarily do. You know, you don't want to get carried away. You don't want to think, oh, this is my linear strategy. I'm just going to go into this and not follow all the steps. Benching that Jirachi means that at some point he can go into a Stellar Wish if he does need to.
Yeah, well, the quick retreat, the Gengar
Horror
Mimikyu is
House
brought
GX.
to the active.
Not to its full effect, unfortunately. There weren't 2 energy on that Mewtwo and Mew this early stage in the game. But it is preventing Christian from being able to play any cards this turn.
So one thing that is beneficial for Christian here is if you're scared of Poltergeist, you could discard any extra trainers that you have in your hand thanks to Viridian Forest. But I think he only has 1, possibly 2 in his hand, and one of them is Welder, so that's not something you want to discard.
Yeah, the fact that he didn't use the Viridian Forest is kind of telling to Sobi that maybe Poltergeist is not the right move to make in this situation. Christian's clearly not afraid of it, so maybe it's not the best thing.
Yeah, and off the top of the deck, there's a Professor's Research really helping out Sobi here. His hand was not really much after that, so being able to continue this very fast start here.
And his hand is actually comprised of cards that you don't mind throwing away. So one of those is that Giratina. It really has full benefit from the discard pile, and actually Sobi chooses to use Viridian Forest, discarding that Giratina, putting it in the discard pile. You never know when that Distortion Door can really turn a game for you.
So with Mewtwo and Mew GX in this deck, you really start doing your good attacks at 3 energy. Granted, he has already attached for the turn, so he's going to need to find something like a Switch and a Malamar to get something like a Night Watch going. But I think with the lone Trevenant Dusknoir GX in the prizes, he's really going to have to struggle to find a good attack for these early turns.
Does find another Inkay.
And has the Switch, so he will be able to switch to the Jirachi and keep digging with Stellar Wish. Also needs to find that Malamar here.
Plays down that Inkay, and it could all ride on this Stellar Wish.
Yeah, needs to find Mysterious Treasure. Quick Ball will not do it here.
And it's the last card! Exactly what he needed to see, and it was the 5th card as well.
So the 3 energy on this will allow him to use Tag Perch to take the knockout on Volcanion with it 120 damage and having perfect math for this Volcanion.
Wow. Cards like Marnie, abilities like Stellar Wish, they're really putting in work for these players.
Yeah, who needs to draw 7 when I could just look at the top 5?
Yeah, absolutely not. I'm sure it's going to be there. Big draw for Sobi there. Is able to find that Malamar. Psychic Recharge will get another Psychic Energy onto that Mewtwo and Mew GX. He can now copy any of the moves from GX Pokemon on Sobi's bench or in his discard pile. And there are quite a few to choose from.
Yeah, looking down, but you're also able to copy your bench, and Tag Purge seems to be the best attack right now.
Looks like he's indicating his discard pile, though. Really considering which
looking
attack.
for a Photon
I think
Geyser.
it's Photon Geyser.
And that means he'll have to discard both Psychic Energy, putting himself at a little disadvantage, but will be able to take the knockout there.
And does take that one prize, and it is that Dedenne GX. Able to get it off the prizes.
That's a big prize card there.
Looks like Christian here is going to weld a 2 energy onto that Victini V.
Yeah, one thing he could have been worried about too was a big energy burst retaliation from Victini V, dealing 30 damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. So it could be a pretty big heads-up play there from Sobi.
Oh yeah, you don't get to the final for no reason. These guys are thinking multiple steps ahead. Christian here, he's got to try to get some action going. I mean, he's played Welder and put 2 energy onto that Victini V, really committing to that Pokemon.
Yeah, it's a little bit awkward because he drew into another Welder as well as a Dedenne GX, and those are 2 cards you kind of don't want together.
No, you don't want to see them at the same time.
You want to play one of them and then find the other one.
Looking at playing a giant hearth there.
Yeah, even having Fiery Flint in the hand, being able to discard 2 cards and search for 4 fire energy, a very powerful item card, but there is so much energy search in this deck that they really only play 1 to 2 copies.
Yeah, Christian, he is seeing a lot of ways to discard fire energy, so we could see a really big infinity from that Victini Prism Star at some point in this game, maybe to take a big one-hit knockout on a Mewtwo and Mew GX.
And there we see a 4th energy come down on the active, and
but there we go. It does decide to discard a Welder with that Dede Change ability of Dedenne GX.
Finds a Vulpix, finally hitting the bench after 2 games of no Ninetales here.
Looks like we're going to see an attack from this Victini V, a new Pokemon V that has come out in Sword and Shield. Finds a Malamar, though.
That's big. All right, Malamar, now there's 2 in play, has access to either Marnie or Professor's Research.
Huge top deck, means he's able to get multiple energy onto this Mewtwo this turn if he can get it back onto the bench to utilize Psychic Recharge.
Even having something like that Great Catcher in hand to bring up the Dedenne GX, but you also kind of want to try to take care of this big Victini V that is just going to start attacking everything.
It's only going to get more and more powerful as more energy are played on it. It's kind of an interesting interaction between that Victini V and that Victini Prism Star as well, as if you do take down that Victini V, well, Victini Prism Star becomes more powerful.
Could be eyeing down something like Giratina with its Distortion Door ability, being able to bring it back onto the bench, and then you can attach 2 Psychic to it with Psychic Recharge, having plenty in the discard already.
It's one of those cards that people used to really prioritize in that Malamar decks, then it fell by the wayside, but now people are recognizing, hey, this is a single prize attacker that can sometimes 2-hit big GX Pokemon, but looks like he's going to commit a Psychic Energy to that Mewtwo and Mew.
Yeah, and finding the switch, he is able to reset the board here.
Big find off that Professor's Research.
And it now, with that, gets to Psychic Recharge 2 energy to the Mewtwo and Mew and take another big knockout with that against the Victini V.
Also finds that Absol, that Dark Ambition ability. Forcing Christian to expend more energy if he wants to pivot around different Pokemon, retreating. And there comes down the switch, so he will be able to Psychic Recharge onto that Mewtwo and Mew GX. It is all eggs in one basket, though, as his bench is full, not able to power up any other potential attackers outside of maybe that Latios GX.
Yeah, one thing that we see in Sobi's hand just hiding there is that Blacephalon from Cosmic Eclipse with its attack Fireworks Bomb is actually very good after your opponent takes a knockout on a tag team Pokemon, so he could be thinking next turn ahead.
Oh, yeah. Stellar Wish now deciding what he's going to take. Seems to think Marnie is the right option out of those 5 cards.
Yeah, and already playing the supporter for the turn. This will be just hopefully something to refuel for the turn after. And there we go, retreat of the Jirachi and another Photon Geyser to take a big, big knockout.
So Sobi goes down to 3 prize cards. He's now 3 ahead of Christian in this matchup, and he's cleared the board of energy.
Meanwhile, Christian does get the welder off the top of the deck.
This could be big. He's able to find energy thanks to that giant hearth as well. You've got to think, how many energy are there in Christian's discard pile?
There's definitely enough. That's the number, enough.
These decks do run 18 fire energy cards. There's often times when they get down to their deck and they say, I have 2 left, I'll just shuffle them all back in with this infinity attack.
Yeah, Victini Prism Star is really coming into its own in this particular build of the deck. Sometimes in previous standard formats, we've seen Fire Crystal, being able to grab 3 fire energy from your discard, and that's the way you reuse your fire energy to fuel for welders for next turn. But Victini being able to do that and take big knockouts.
Christian here selecting that Heatran GX from his deck, found it with Quick Ball, places it swiftly onto the bench. Does have that welder. He is able to power up a Pokemon this turn with 2 from welder and 1 from hand if he so chooses. And there comes down the welder, placing 2 fire energy onto one of his Pokemon, goes for the Heatran GX, drawing 3 off the welder as well. Finds that Reshiram and Charizard. That's a card that hasn't really featured too much, but also finds the Ninetales.
Yeah, and having the switch in hand, that means this Heatran GX will be able to take the knockout on the active Mewtwo GX with Steaming Stomp, dealing 130 damage. And it is a little bit harder to get the Revenge KO on Heatran just because of the 190 HP.
Slightly awkward number there for especially that Photon Geyser to hit. Also decides he's going to set up for next turn, perhaps. Or just thin his deck. Get that Ditto Prism Star out of there.
Ditto could be some good assurance against something like a Marnie if Christian is able to draw into the one of Zebstrika in his list.
Christian very much all in on this Heatran. He does only have a 1-card hand, and is that Ditto Prism Star. He will take 3 prizes, though, to fill his hand to 4, and one of those was Cherish Ball.
I think he got both the Den AGX from the prizes.
Oh, okay.
All right, action back on Sobi, and he has that Blacephalon in hand. Fireworks Bomb will be the attack of choice here, and now it's just where he's going to put that 12 damage counters.
Your opponent is on 3 prize cards remaining. You can spread 12 damage counters with that Blacephalon anywhere on their board.
Such a powerful attack on a single prize attacker for this deck.
And sometimes where exactly you place those damage counters can really be the difference between winning and losing. You can soften up Pokemon for a hit from Mewtwo and Mew GX on a following turn, or perhaps a Giratina as well. You've got to really work the numbers and figure out a couple of turns ahead, where do I need to put these damage counters? Finds a switch off the Jirachi. Perhaps not as crucial as previous turns.
Still good to have.
Oh, yeah. You never know what shenanigans your opponent's going to bring. Looks like he's going to discard that Trevenant Dusknoir.
He prized all his fire energy.
Just another way to get that Pokemon into the discard pile.
Yeah, finally finding it from the prizes as well.
Here we go. We're going to see Blacephalon head into the active position.
Couple Psychic Recharges to charge up something on the bench.
Not
if
really
he wants
great
to.
targets.
Yeah.
You're looking around and you're seeing maybe Latios GX with its damage cap of about 120, but looks like he's going to put one on the Absol. This is something funny that we were discussing earlier. The fact that Sobi's deck can actually attack with Absol because it runs that Aurora energy. But looks like he's going to target down with that Blacephalon. Targets down the Ninetale and places a couple of damage counters elsewhere. Critically, one onto that Heatran GX, making it a little bit easier for Mewtwo and Mew to knock out.
Yeah, also one on the Dedenne GX, making it so Nightwatch can take a knockout. And eyeing down that Ninetales to just get rid of the gusting effect that was available to Christian here.
Now, interestingly, sorry, I can't speak anymore, on Sobi's side of the board is that he doesn't have any tag team GX Pokemon, so he can't really give up 3 prizes on this turn.
Yeah, usually this Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff GX is a very great attacker in the format, but Sobi only having that 1 GX Pokemon in play, it's dealing 120 damage.
Sobi's opened himself up to just a simple knockout on that Heatran GX or any Dedenne GX to win himself the game. He has only 2 prizes remaining. And it's really up to Christian here.
Yeah, and with the giant hand that Sobi has access to, it is looking like he might have this sealed up. Christian doing everything he can to try and prevent that from happening.
Like he's going to retreat that Heatran GX and go into the Mega Lopunny. 3 energy attached to it.
All right, this is probably the best play he could do. Put as much HP in the active spot, but we see a Mysterious Treasure. The Viridian Force is able to net the energy that Sobi will need, and I think we'll be seeing the game here and Sobi being declared the international champion in his home country.
Yeah, it's super exciting for everyone here. Still has to make sure he pieces together the right cards to be able to achieve this win. Only 2 prizes remaining. Does need to get a knockout here.
Even something like Great Catcher could mean the game for Sobi.
Has the energy. He has the Mewtwo and Mew GX.
Needs to play this turn perfectly, though.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to mess this up.
Don't miss a beat. Just see exactly what your opponent has access to. Exactly what strategy is going to win you the game on this turn, or at least give you the best chances of winning going forward.
Yeah, you've been playing the best game you possibly can all weekend. There's no reason to stop now. Looking through Christian's discard, making sure he's making every move with as much intelligence as he can.
Then we see a Poipole hit the discard pile. That Mysterious Treasure, just thinning out a little bit, gets an Inkay out of there.
Actually, don't know if I saw a Great Catcher left. I think there has to be. He does play 2 of them. Used one earlier on. And there is a Marnie. We've seen Marnie be able to draw some amazing cards for the victory here so far.
Will it happen again?
These are big 5 cards. Great Catcher is the 5th card! And that will seal up the victory. Nightwatch will be able to take the knockout on that Dedenne GX with 10 damage on the bench.
There it is.
And Sobi is your Oceania international champion in the senior division.